This is the story of Arthur Mandela and the revelation of his biggest secret. Up until his death in 2015, Arthur Ralph Mandela ran his family's company, Dell's Maraschino Cherries, from a little neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. The factory produced about 14 million pounds of nothing but pure cherries every year. Arthur was named after his grandfather, Arthur Mandela Sr., and his father, Ralph Mandela, who founded the company in 1949. He grew up in the business and took over after their demise. He was a nice and funny guy who in his lifetime married twice and had 3 daughters, Dana, Dominica, and Antoinette. Dana and Dominica now manage the company. Many people remember him fondly as one of the few who employed ex-offenders and offered them a better life. There was a man who said that Arthur paid his college tuition. He helped get men off the streets, mostly people with rough backgrounds, and these men will forever be grateful for his benevolence. The events leading to his death, though, have revealed that there may be a hidden reason for this uncommon nicety. His death also caused some ruckus in the beekeeping industry, and this caught many as a surprise. But it is worth noting that the events leading to Mandela's death and the revelation of his biggest secret began with the arrival of the bees. In 2010, the city of New York experienced the hottest summer ever. The leaves of the street trees were scorched and the flowers withered. It was a summer to forget for almost every city dweller, but it was not for Mandela and the beekeepers. As the summer progressed, bees began to glow red, and their keepers noticed that their honey was also turning red. The heat of that summer had killed most of the flowers, making it hard for the bees to find nectar. It became bothersome for the beekeepers as they watched their bees turn red. So one beekeeper, who was also a middle school biology teacher, Tim O'Neill, decided to look into the situation. O'Neill also writes a blog, and in it he theorized that the red honey was probably connected to their exposure to a substance called ethylene glycol. Children, pets, and bees have been known to ingest this substance sometimes because of its sweet taste, and the result of this is sometimes fatal. He advised that none of his fellow beekeepers should taste the red honey until it was tested. But his thesis was wrong, as other bees that did not have access to the chemical also produced the red honey. They soon observed that the bees had been flying in the direction of the cherry factory, swarming the puddles of red juice around it. It was not clear how cherries could cause bees to produce red honey, so O'Neill mailed samples of the honeycombs to a laboratory for testing, and when the results arrived a month later, the honey was contaminated with a food-safe dye, one of the active ingredients in Dell's factory production. The news of the red bees went viral with different news sources, including the New York Times covering the story. However, none of the media houses got any word from Arthur Mandela, whose factory was at the center of the issue. Arthur called the leader of the Beekeeper Association, Andrew Coate, so they could find a solution to the problem of the bees, and Coate, going to the factory, taught Arthur how to put some screens up and some other gimmicks that would help keep the bees away. Boom, and that was it. Problem solved, although it did cost the beekeepers a whole season of produce. One should commend Mandela for the swift manner in which he handled the issue. He just silenced what could have become a full-blown war of words and lawsuits. But did Arthur Mandela do this simply because he was a nice guy who didn't want any trouble? Or was he simply trying to hide a secret at the cherry factory? There was a third party at play in this show. The New York law enforcement agency saw an opportunity from the attention drawn to the Maraschino cherry factory to look into an allegation that the factory had been illegally growing marijuana. The rumors had started in 2009, and while the authorities made quiet inquiries into the factory's floor plan, investigations had come up short. Neighbors in apartments overlooking the building were the first to report whiffs of marijuana wafting along with the cherries. Then one man, David Selig, thought he could perceive the smell of pot in the building, but he thought it was because many of the factory's employees smoked it. It was only after a postal employee went to the authorities with tales of marijuana being grown in the factory that the police started their investigation. The sniffer dogs did not catch the smell of marijuana, and there was no increase in the energy consumption of the factory. This would have raised any suspicion about the use of grow lights. Detection was not possible because the factory had its own gas-powered generators. Independent environmental investigators looked into possible violations in the dumping of water waste from the manufacturing process into the sewer, but all the investigations turned up bare. The investigations more or less died down until the 24th of February 2015, when the police carried out a surprise raid of the factory. Officers from the Department of Environmental Protection Agency, the New York City Police Department, and the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office stormed into the factory with a warrant to search parts of the premises for the evidence of illegal dumping of wastewater. Arthur Mondella, who was not searched because the warrant didn't allow it, became more and more agitated as the search progressed. And, while examining some shelves, the police discovered the factory had a false wall, so they quickly sent for a warrant to search behind it. While the wait was on for the warrant, Arthur Mondella asked to be excused. He went into the bathroom and locked himself in, refusing to come out for hours, even after persuasion from the police. He had only one wish. He wished to see his sister, and when she arrived, he had only one request. He said to her through the door, "Take care of my kids." And those were his final words. He pulled a pistol he had been carrying in an ankle holster and shot himself in the head. That was the end of Arthur Mondella, but not the end of the investigation. Eventually, when the warrant arrived, the officers discovered a ladder behind the false wall that led down to a large basement of about 2,500 square feet, spacious enough to contain 100 marijuana plants. The space had a well-set-up system of hydroponic cultivation under LED grow lights. The basement also contained about 100 pounds of harvested marijuana, $130 cash, a small office where he kept a copy of the World Encyclopedia of Organized Crime. The officers also found a garage in the basement, containing a collection of vintage cars, which led to suspicions that Arthur probably led a flashy life outside the factory. If Arthur were alive, he would probably have received probation, or a 2 to 3 year jail term at worst. The company was fined $1.2 million for the illegal possession of marijuana, and no further charges were filed afterwards. It is amazing how quickly a person can lose sanity when he is stripped of his dignity. That was the case of Arthur Mondella. He was that factory, and that factory was him. He devoted his life into building it, and having it go to ruins like that shook him so hard. We can only imagine how hard. That he resorted to suicide only confirms how hurt and broken he must have felt. Arthur Mondella was a nice man, admired by family and friends, and probably you watching this. But I guess we all have our little secrets, and we will probably do anything to protect them. Some people, though, blame the bees for Mondella's demise. Well, there you have it, the Maraschino Mogul. Leave your questions and comments below. Let us know why you think Arthur Mondella would go through such drastic lengths. If you liked this video, don't forget to click the like button and hit that notification bell for more videos brought to you by Epic Clips.